Amazon, you could have warehouses close to your consumers and have as many storage locations that are close to your consumer regardless of your production and raw material sourcing. Next is the capacity of your sites. Do you want your production to be large scale and have a lot of production, or do you need it to be small scale and just meet the demand of the consumer? Per request, you do production, that's how much capacity you need. Storage sites, same thing. Do you want large storage, do you want small storage? That's all a matter of efficiency and how much inventory you plan on having. Last is the flexibility and adaptivity of each one of these sites. Production sites that are flexible and adaptive usually are capable of producing multiple products, allowing you to utilize your production plants even if the demand for a product changes in the market. If you can change it, it's able to be more efficient and adaptive. If not, you have a focused one, which is for specialized products, a little more high quality products and a little more control, but it won't respond to market demand shifts. Next is storage sites. When we went to Hilmar Cheese needs warehousing that is focused. Their product has a shelf life. It needs to be refrigerated. It's a very focused inventory. Now, other warehousing for firms could be very adaptive. They could hold canned goods, they could hold some refrigerated item, they could hold tires, anything, you know. So the inventory that you'll have in these sites. So the three types of inventory structures are cycle inventory. This is a constant replenishment inventory, which is based on constant demand, usually for an economies of scale type thing. If you think of light bulbs are usually mass produced, they're mass shipped, and they're mass warehoused, and they have a constant demand in retail, you know, real estate, commercial. There's always a demand for light bulb, and you can create them with economies of scales. Then you have seasonal inventory. This is usually for kind of agriculture, mostly sort of the one I saw was apparel, which is an inventory that you expect a demand shock during a certain season, a period of time. Now, with this seasonal inventory, you could either utilize your production, if it's capable of managing your demand shock, you don't need as much seasonal inventory. But if your production needs to produce year round and you need to build your inventory, that's something you'll determine as far as efficiency or responsiveness of your production and inventory management. Last is safety inventory, something John spoke about shortly. I kind of consider this as the rainy day fund. Now, the rainy day fund safety inventory is much more uncertain for demand. It's a matter of inventory demand shock that you're not expecting. And the difficulty and trickiness behind this is how do you determine how much excess inventory you're purposely holding in order to not miss sales opportunities and margins? And as well as, do you want to carry too much inventory and then you actually have to pay for the cost of inventory, warehousing, as well as deep discounts, and it's not as effective. So again, this is a matter of efficiency and demand and kind of balance. Transportation. The modes of transportation definitely are contingent upon what product you have and the demand and timetable for your consumers. If you have a product that is mass-produced, high volume, you could utilize ships, trucks, trains, full freights that are high space utilized and more efficient and lower per cost transportation. Or if you have a product that is more specialized, not as often demanded, you could use plane, you could use smaller freight. There's other options for what type of mode you're going to use. Now, the methods of distribution within transportation, the three that I most focus on were third party, which is like DHL, USPS, UPS. You could use these for companies or firms that are more like online catalogs. The consumer demands to have this product, they purchase it, you put it on a third party, it's transit to them right away. It's not your personal distribution. Or you have direct to consumers. Many manufacturers are starting to adapt this now. They're integrating their companies, they're taking over distribution, they produce a product, they send it to the consumer. Last thing is cross-stocking, which is something like big thing Walmart does, which is a facility has incoming trucks, inbound trucks bring in product, they sort it, they scan it, and they reallocate it to outbound going trucks to the consumer locations. The next one is information. Information provides a unique opportunity for management to make supply chains more responsive as well as efficient. So here's some examples of information. I mean, nowadays we have companies like Salesforce, which are full CRM, consumer relations management companies. They're all based on relationship or information and the flow of information. The airline industry, for example, uses information to determine when consumers most often have an elasticity for purchasing seats on an airplane, what times, what days, what seasons, and they're able to calculate how many seats will be discounted are offered at a discount per plane and per location. They'll also be able to determine how many seats need to be at a higher rate that consumers are willing to pay for. Walmart uses information in their stores and with their suppliers that every time a checkout counter scans a product out, it sends a notice to their supplier that this red sweater has been checked out. You need to produce another red sweater, send it to our distribution for us to get to the store. They also use this to do information pools to determine which locations prefer certain products, colors, or items. And they are actually so capable that in the middle of distribution, Walmart could halt distribution, reallocate it to a different location based on the information they received. Last but not least is Zara here. Zara is very well known for their information management. So they actually have personal devices, computers that every store manager has. They can determine what color clothing people are purchasing, what type of clothing, V-necks, crew necks, etc. And they send it to one global data bank for Zara that sends out the information to their supply chain in order to send it to R&D, manufacture it, distribute it, and get it to stores. Zara is actually known to be able to get information from the stores to global, do that whole across their supply chain, and get products from information to the store in 30 days. They do all that in 30 days. An example of this was during the September 11th attack, Zara realized that consumers were somber. They're in a poor mood. They're buying darker clothing, black clothing mostly. So Zara sent that information to their global headquarters. The global information sent it to R&D and manufacturing. And in 30 days, they had darker clothing at all Zara stores pertaining to that information they felt. Next is sourcing. Sourcing is becoming more of a conversation due to the globalization of industries. Now, there's still in-house sourcing, which are the processes that companies feel they can do most effectively for their supply chain, and they'll stick to this. This usually allows them a little more responsiveness as well as control on the quality. And there's still outsourcing, and outsourcing is generally used by companies to send facilities and sourcing to cheap, lower labor rate areas that they could find more efficiency in producing. Toyota and Honda, on the other hand, kind of used outsourcing for a different advantage. Their objective was to have production in every major market that they were in. And in the case of the 2011 March 11th earthquake in Japan, 125,000 plus buildings were destroyed in the earthquake, tsunamis, and 80% of the Japanese automaking industry production fell. And Toyota and Honda specifically heavily relied on their manufacturing abroad, which really helped them out through these tougher times. So outsourcing does have some additional benefits. The new trend is third-party contractual outsourcing. Outsourcing was really well known for high-volume, low-quality products more often than not. And you couldn't really do specialized products like high-end devices, specialty heart devices, or even airplanes. Nowadays, third-party contractual outsourcing allows third-party companies like Foxconn for Apple to have their own infrastructure. Apple doesn't have to build it. They have their own workforce that's capable of understanding the product, and they are actually now doing third-party contractual outsourcing for airplanes, heart devices, and as well as specialty intelligent technology. And finally, is pricing. Pricing, there's multiple structures. You have the varied and steady pricing. It's kind of a Macy's, Nordstrom type of idea or supermarket idea for varied. They price products a little bit higher, and then they purposely drop the prices, steep discounts, shift the demand up, get a price or demand shock. They bring in all these consumers, they have an influx of consumers, then they exhale, they put the prices back up, they purposely expect their demand to kind of dissipate a bit, and that's how they play the demand of pricing. And then there's Costco. We all pretty much know Costco. They have a steady pricing model. They purposely keep their pricing generally low. They even go as far as not discounting products that are damaged. They just let it go. They're not gonna discount products that are damaged. They want their customers to understand what they're going there for. You expect what you're getting when you go to Costco. Next is the fixed or menu pricing. Fixed pricing generally, from what I noticed, came in high value products. High-end clothing, high-end automobiles, etc. They have a purposely fixed high cost. They're trying to make their margin. They purposely put it that way. You're gonna get that cost no matter where you go. There's no discount periods or seasons. Then you have menu pricing, something that Amazon is very well known for. If you want to buy a pair of boots for $50 on Amazon, you have the menu option, depending on your personal efficiency and responsiveness, to determine that you will pay the $60 Prime membership to have that product delivered to you in 2 days, or you will just take the 5 to 7 business day free shipping and get the product when you get it, pay your $50, and no burden on cost for efficiency. So you're paying different prices depending on your own personal demand for the same product. Last is price discrimination. There's 3 forms of it: first degree, second degree, and third degree. First degree is car dealerships, usually service industries, car dealerships, mechanics, lawyers, doctors. They purposely try to capture the absolute highest amount of marginal return that the customer is willing to pay. They purposely put their price as high as they can. They have consumers come. Sometimes, like car dealerships, they'll put a sticker price that they know they're making an absurd amount of margin on. They'll tell you that they'll drop it and discount it a little bit to make you feel like they've sweetened the deal, although that is purposely done. It's price discrimination. They are as high as they can to make the highest profit. When they drop their price, they're still making very high profit. The second degree price discrimination is schedule pricing. When you go into a supermarket and you see bottles of wine, it says 3 bottles for $10, or each bottle is $10 each. After 3 bottles, you get the next 3 for $8. And after those, after 6 bottles, you get the next 3 for $7. That's schedule pricing. That allows a price discrimination on how much a consumer is personally willing to spend or to purchase at one time. The last type of pricing discrimination is charging different prices for the same product on things like movie theaters and zoos, for example, when they have student discounts or senior discounts. It's the same exact product, but regular adult will pay $20 for it, a student will pay $12 for it, or senior will pay $12 for it. The reason they do this is because they realize their market will pay $20. That's their general target audience. But they can capture more marginal return by offering discounts to markets that aren't as inclined to use these services. So that's just there to capture more market share. Now the takeaways from this, from kind of the closing statements of why I wrote this, is I really want decision makers to understand these influences on the supply chain and to understand that they have a supply chain that is a full scope product. You really need to consider how each tick in turn really changes the whole scope. Next is to utilize each driver in the supply chain as a check and a balance to make your supply chain more efficient and responsive in determination for your added value to consumer. And the last thing is to prioritize consumers. By doing that and adding consumer value, every decision is effectively a strategy, and you can formulate the best decisions by knowing what your customers want and meeting it. Thank you, guys. Questions?
Someone else asked the first question. No? All right. I have a few. Okay, so, because I love this stuff. Good job. So, you didn't really mention just in time, but you have elements of a lot of just in time traits. So some of that is the premise for some of my questions.
Of course.
Regarding Zara, the example, what do you believe had to be in place in order to enable them to come up with, in a 30-day time frame, dark clothing and have it designed, manufactured, and distributed to all their stores?
Yeah, so that's completely just in time. So what they did is, by giving every manager in the store a PDA, or a little personal computer, to determine what's going in and out of the stores, they set up a bank of information with a team of people whose sole purpose is to send that information throughout the supply chain to be on top of trends. Most fashion companies follow trends, they're trying to be on top of it. So what they did is they formulated their supply chain to be as efficient as possible. When they need black fabric when they need to source black fabric, they have all their sourcing already set up in the most efficient manner, and it's all centralized. That way they can produce it right after they sourced it, that way they can distribute it, put it in the distribution centers, and their costs will generally come from distribution, because they've sourced it, produced it, and inventoried it very central. That's where they got their efficiency, but they had to make up for that, distributing all their locations by transportation to get that just-in-time, responsive and efficiency, which is beautiful about Zara. If you consider everything I wrote about, Zara is a perfect company of balancing efficiency and responsiveness at a cost, but it's working.
Very good. And regarding your Toyota example, this is just more of a clarification and a comment.
Mm-hmm.
All automotive manufacturers really are just assemblers.
Yeah.
They don't actually produce the car. I would say probably 80 to